Let it go. Let it go. I shouldn't sing that song. It's got to be a copyright thing. Okay. Can you guys see me now? Oh, no. Not again. Oop, okay, it just started. Let's see. Is anybody here yet? Sorry, it told me I could resume my old one. So I got all excited and I tried to resume my old one. But it didn't work. Sad! And it doesn't say how many people are here. So maybe nobody's here. Well, that'd be a bummer. My cat is here with us. Hey! I just want you to see my running shirt. Look at that. Working my puff into tough. Okay, anyway, let's get back to work. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. So, I don't remember exactly where it cut off because for me, it kept talking for some time, I think. Here we go. You guys still there? Or did it archive it? Is it better now? Okay now? I'm so angry. Now you're back. All right, so, geez Louise. Why is it showing me? I was trying to show this. Okay, so as I did not even get through before the internet cut out again, and there will be a call to AT&T shortly after this stream. Is your cat still there, Courtney? Anyway, the women's march happened. They killed a bunch of people, the guards. They made the king and queen go back to Paris. They had to go to the Tuileries Palace. Okay, then I think that it cut off when I was trying to talk about this in the first stream. You got the Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen. And the Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen were essentially, it's kind of like a Bill of Rights in England. It's an attempt to guarantee a lot of the rights of the Enlightenment, to codify a lot of the rights of the Enlightenment. People have the right to assemble in public and freedom of speech and stuff like that. Social classes are abolished. From now on, we will all call ourselves citizens. And there are no nobles, there's no sir, there's no lord. It's all citizen. And by the way, conspiracy-minded people can look at the little all-seeing eye there and be like, oh, Illuminati. In reality, it's just a symbol of the Enlightenment and of knowledge. But hey, knock yourselves out, crazy people. All right. The new style becomes the idea of liberty, equality, and brotherhood. And liberty, equality, and brotherhood are the symbols on the flag. You got red, white, and blue. Hey, that sounds familiar. America. And hardcore revolutionaries start wearing the revolutionary red cap. This is a great time. And Louis XVI initially is down with this. He's like, guys, this is fantastic. I am totally a fan. I definitely don't want to murder you all. But he will change his mind, because ultimately he feels like his rights are being taken away. His rights as a monarch are being taken away. And so he decides, he gets this big idea that he is going to flee to the Austrian Netherlands. Now, the Austrian Netherlands were taken, they used to be the Spanish Netherlands. This is a result of the 7 Years' War that it becomes the Austrian Netherlands. And he decides he's going to try to get over there, and that's not far from Paris. But he tries to go in the middle of the night. They all wear like normal people clothes, and he gets stopped along the way. I've heard some stories say that he stopped and then tried to bribe someone with a coin that had his own face on it. I don't know if he's that dumb. Long story short, it doesn't work. And when Louis decides, I'm going to bug out and get out of here, it is definitely a betrayal to the French people. Because the French people wanted a situation, as you might have recalled me saying, like the English. They want the English system. They want the king second, but still around. They don't want to kill him. But now this king here of ours, along with his evil Austrian wife, in their minds at least, he's gone off and tried to run away. He's tried to leave our happy republic. So this is going to be the beginning of the end for Louis XVI, because he has committed treason. Can you bring me Siegfried, baby? Siegfried. So he is arrested. They put him in jail. And then the question of what to do with the king is there. And it's a question that is a matter of life and death. Wasn't that so dramatic? Great job. Great job, Mr. Oliver. Super dramatic. Thank you, Lorelai.
So he chopped his head off?
Well, first they vote about it. Now, in order to understand this part, we got to get some more vocab. So let's front load that. Anybody recognize this debating society? Can anybody tell me what this is?
The Hall of Congress?
Congress is America. We're in France, and this isn't the National Assembly. This is a group of people debating. And out of this comes the radical elements of the French Revolution, the well-educated Robespierre types. It's not the Estates General. It looks kind of like it. It's not big enough. This is the debating society that is called the, I will type it, Jacobin Club.
Wow. Is it like a club for Jacobins?
Yeah, and the Jacobin Club is me. What? It's Jacobins. My wife just corrected me, but everybody in America says Jacobin, so I'm just going to say Jacobin. So, anyway, the Jacobins, or Jacobins, are radical fellas, and this is where we get some terms, by the way, that you might have heard of. The mountain is the people who sit up here, and the plain are the people who sit down on the floor.
What's the difference?
The mountain were the people in the Jacobin Society that were more radical. They wanted no king, a pure republic, not a constitutional monarchy. The Girondists down here, the plain, not like plain like the plains of Kansas. That is, those guys were more like, hey, let's make it like England. Those guys were still liberal, but more moderate. Anyway, the Jacobins pretty much dominate the National Assembly now, and they debate about what to do with this king. And it is a close vote. By just a vote, one vote, the king is sentenced to death. But how are we going to kill him? If we chop off his head, that is with a sword. That is traditionally the way that nobles are killed. But they want to make things where there are no social classes. So we can't kill him the way nobles have traditionally died. And then up pipes this dude named Dr. Joseph Guillotine. It's Guillotine, technically, just before my wife corrects me. She's also a history teacher, TBH. That means to be honest. But, Guillotine. Oh. Better? Okay. So, anyway, the guillotine, I'm just going to say it like that, is a new invention by this doctor, and it bears his name, which is amazing, to be Dr. Guillotine. His family, by the way, has changed their name nowadays. There's no guillotine people walking around. So if you were hoping to marry somebody and be like, yeah, I'm taking your name, sorry. Although, why not just name yourself Guillotine, okay? You're strong and independent, ladies. Do it yourself. Or guys, you can rename yourselves too. Bam, it's 2017. All right, anyway, they say everybody dies the same. It's painless. I know you're saying, get your head chopped off in a guillotine is painless? Actually, relatively, yeah, because it's so fast and you don't really have time to process it. It's just like 1, 2, dead. And the idea is everybody will be equal in death. Chops off your head, boom, move on. And they never intended it to become what it kind of became, where it's like, you know, something you identify with the French Revolution, where so many people are murdered. They just thought, look, you know, for extreme cases, death penalty, this is what we'll do. Remember, there were people during the Enlightenment that didn't even want the death penalty. So this is seen as kind of a compromise. It's as humane as possible and also egalitarian. So this is where Robespierre kind of starts coming to the forefront. And Robespierre is obviously a very handsome fellow, a wonderful orator from the Jacobin Society, also a former lawyer. And he is a huge advocate for killing the king. He says, if we're going to have a republic, we must have no king. He tried to betray us. That's what these nobles do. That's what these monarchs do. They're going to always betray us and undermine our attempts to create a republic for the people. And sure enough, Robespierre is going to win that debate. They will then, let me see what's on my next slide, I can't remember. Yeah, they will then kind of enter this awkward phase of violence. Now, this part's really violent, Laura.
Okay,
well, no, it's good stuff, but it's violent. During this era, everybody else declares war on them. This is a longer story than I'm going to go into here, but essentially, the Austrians and the Prussians say, hey, don't hurt the king. The French are all like, oh, we want to hurt the king. This is before they do it, obviously. And they say, you know what? You can't tell us what to do. We're going to go kill you. So they declare war on Austria and Prussia. What did I just say like 30 minutes ago? Don't declare war on Prussia. Prussia is the bomb.com when it comes to war. That didn't rhyme. I was trying to make something that rhymed with the .com and also had to do with war. It didn't work. Anyway, so the people of Paris flip out. They're like, well, we're at war with Austria and Prussia. All right, let's go fight. Early on, not working. The Prussians and the Austrians are winning because, like I said, Prussia is an awesome army. And obviously the solution is for the people of Paris to break into the prisons and murder people. Wait, what? Right. This is the September Massacre. And the September Massacres take place, in September, isn't it? They are trying to eliminate the evidence, so to speak. They're worried that if Prussia and especially Austria get in and see all this terrible stuff they've done, then they're going to have to awkwardly explain it. You know, hey, we've been putting nobles in prison. Hey, we've been chopping off guards' heads. So we've also been arresting priests who refuse to take loyalty oaths to the new republic. So we need to cover up that evidence by murdering them. Now, I'm not sure why that helps, quite frankly, because by killing them, won't that sort of make it so like there's more evidence? But I'm not sure there was a lot of logic being used here. This is a straight up savage massacre. Awful things take place. They drag people out of the prisons. They're raping nuns. They're murdering and chopping apart people. They're doing all kinds of awful, awful stuff. So anyway, long story short, that's the September Massacres. They do manage to get lucky here. The Prussians and Austrians are never able to take Paris. They do penetrate into France, but never far enough to get too close to Paris. They're getting there, but they're not too close. And then the French armies ultimately repel them. Having said that, Robespierre decides, we need something more. We need a committee to guarantee public safety and order. And guess who's going to be in charge of that? Did you guess Robespierre? You were right. Robespierre will be in charge of it. And Robespierre essentially is trying to crack down on any disloyalty towards the Republic. This is not a crazy idea. The idea of wanting to be unified in the face of war against Austria and Prussia. By the way, did you notice that I didn't say anything about battles? Don't worry about them for this. If you just know who they're at war with, Austria and Prussia, and then eventually England as well, although not quite yet, then you'll be fine. Because it was the Public Safety Committee. Did you answer that, or did your kitty? Anyway, I tried to get my cat to come up, but he just ate a little bit and left, Courtney. I was going to have him talk a little bit, but he wasn't feeling talkative. I think he's tired. So I'll put him on, though, before we are finished. Anyway, Robespierre is in charge of this, and he sets up all kinds of things in the name of the Republic that are maybe a little dicey. For example, secret police to listen in on people. The secret police is not really a Republic kind of thing to do. It's not really a freedom of speech kind of thing to do. But he says, well, we temporarily have to suspend some of those freedoms. And again, this is not unheard of in wartime, but they get to the point where if people complain about the Republic or say things like, oh man, I miss when the nobles were in charge, you know, when the king was around, we didn't have these problems. That could get you arrested and maybe dead. And this period is known as the Reign of Terror. Now, my favorite thing they do as part of this new republic under the Committee of Public Safety is them making a new calendar, because they decide we want to have a divorce from everything in the past. And by that I mean we want to eliminate all traces of the king and the old regime in general. So How are we going to do that? Well, let me tell you, brother. We're going to start renumbering from 1. We'll start renumbering from 1? Yeah. So it's now the year 1. Everywhere else, it's like 1794. But in France, it's 1. Oh, okay. Well, at least you still use the same months, right? No, they also eliminate all the names of the months because many of them have references to former gods and goddesses from Greece and Rome, and they don't want that, obviously. And plus, we got to rename the days of the week. We can't have a day dedicated to the Norse god of thunder, Thor's Day, for example. So they get rid of Thursday. They get rid of all the days. And they make, instead of 7-day weeks, 10-day weeks. And they still have the same number of days in the year, but they want to eliminate the ability for peasants to know what day it is. Because they don't know what day Sunday is, and they don't know what day they're supposed to go to church. Also, speaking of which, they shut down the churches, at least in Paris. Outside of Paris, you don't see the commitment to the de-Christianization, as this is called. Now, I'm emphasizing this because I think this would be a wonderful synthesis if you're talking about the Russian Revolution. Under communism, they also shut down churches. They also emphasize an atheistic type style of worldview. And this is exactly what Robespierre does. What are you doing? Who's bad? Who's bad? Go get him. My dog. Yeah, sorry. My dog is protecting me. Apparently someone is walking outside. Hey, go outside and get him. Go outside and get him. Yeah. Go outside. You can't protect me in here. Yeah, okay. He went outside. Anyway, so for example, they shut down Notre Dame here in Paris, a very famous church, and they rename it the Temple of Reason. And so people can go to Notre Dame, this famous cathedral, one of the most famous cathedrals in Europe, very old, and they can be like, well, hey, let's worship concepts of reason and liberty, which are very republican and not Christian at all. You'll see that also the communists do this. They shut down churches during the Russian Revolution, and they actually set up museums of atheism for all intents and purposes, where they show how superstitious nonsense religion is in order to convert people. Now, just like in Russia, in France, this is not popular outside of some areas, like the main cities. Like, it's big in Moscow in Russia, and this obviously is all happening in Paris in France. But if you go to the surrounding areas and the peasantry there, do you think they're all just like, oh yeah, we're not Catholic anymore, oh well? No. They're all like, no, this is not cool, bros. And so there were representatives of the Republic that would, some would more aggressively try to shut down on religion and punish people who were still being religious, the clergy who were still being influential, whereas others would kind of take a blind eye to it and just go like, yeah, you know, but I'm religious too, it's all good. Robespierre notices this, and he's like, you know what? People need religion. So I'm going to go next step with this, and I'm going to establish a new holiday, because the people are used to all these religious holidays. I'm going to establish a new holiday, and in it, it's going to be devoted to the goddess of liberty. Now, do you suppose this works? No. Even in Paris, where they're pretty down with this whole de-Christianization thing for the most part, people are like, bro, why are you so crazy? And Robespierre's like, I'm not crazy. What did you just say about me? Have that guy arrested. So, big problem. What are we going to do? Let's find out. Oh, meanwhile, I wanted to throw this in to this time period. This is Jacques-Louis David, This is his painting, The Death of Marat. This is a must-know painting. It's also on the name of the painting right there, but just in case you missed that. And The Death of Marat is about this guy named Jean-Paul Marat, who was a publisher of an anti-aristocrat, anti-monarchy type newspaper, and he was influential in the revolution, never as influential as your Robespierres or your Dantons. In fact, it's perfectly fine to focus on Robespierre. It's just, if you know other names, drop them in there too, just to make the teachers happy. Again, they crave data. Marat had to soak in a medicinal bath, and that's because he lived in the sewers for a while and got this weird disease. You know how it is. We've all been there. And the point is, he is visited by informants. One of the informants is not a real informant. She thinks there's too much violence going on. She wants to end the violence, so she murks him with a poignard. That's a little knife, a little long knife, and stabs him. She gets got. She gets not assassinated. That's kind of the wrong word. She gets murdered in the guillotine as well. There's one documentary where this one dude talks creepy about it. It's like how people were writing love poems to Charlotte de Corday because she's such a beautiful woman, and it was in the rain, and she was being taken to be executed, looking so beautiful. And he sounds like a vampire, and it's pretty amazing. If you guys got to see that video, I didn't show it to my kids because that dude too creepy. My kids would get scared. Robespierre, all good things must come to an end, including the Robespierre reign of terror. It only lasts for about a year, but Robespierre is definitely not successful here, and he ends up scaring people too much because he keeps showing up with lists of traitors and saying, like, these people need to be guillotined. These people are enemies. And people are all like, okay. And one day he shows up with a list and he's like, I'm not going to tell you who's on the list. So everybody flips out and they're all like, what if I'm on the list? I don't want to get got. So they're all like, well, let's just get rid of Robespierre. And that's called the Thermidorian reaction. Why is it called the Thermidorian reaction? What a strange name. I get it. Thermidor means heat, and it was one of the summer months' names. It would be roughly equivalent to July, August. So it was in Thermidor. So the reaction to Robespierre in Thermidor. As to how Robespierre was captured, some people say he got in a fight with a soldier and blew his own jaw off. The more common story, which is depicted in this, the more common story, though, is that he tried to assassinate himself, tried to commit suicide, and he was unsuccessful and blew his own jaw off while trying to blow off his head. So either way, sad. Oh, you know what? Before we get to Napoleon, I just want to mention, okay, there's a transition period, and that is called the, here's what I'll do. I'll go like this. I'll just add a slide on the fly here. Boop, 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 boop. The directory. Okay, so you should know that there was a thing called the directory, and it's kind of an in-between because the people are tired of the Committee of Public Safety. The war is still going on, and the people are just kind of sick of all this lack of stability. So the directory is kind of an in-between between Robespierre and his very radical, very radical Jacobin kind of government, and the Napoleonic era, which will follow it, which is more of a dictatorship. It's an in-between where the people try to have stability, and there is an elected five-man, I don't want to say an oligarchy, but essentially it's kind of like an oligarchy where you have five dudes, they're in charge, they make all the decisions. Okay. They're middle-class guys for the most part. They favor the middle class. They remove some of the things the French Revolution had done which is to protect people's bread prices, to make sure the bread doesn't go up. They start kind of favoring the acquisition of wealth again, and they start really kind of becoming unpopular with every single group. So the Directory, it does not last for forever. It's relatively short, and it's extremely unpopular. You only really need to know about them. I can't imagine them asking a question about the Directory, except because Napoleon is this famous general, and he is asked by some of the people who had been involved in the original French Revolution in the first place to come and take over as a dictator. And we're talking about one of the guys that wrote, his name is the Abbé. Abbé's a title, it's a religious title. Emmanuel Says. He wrote a book called What is the Third Estate? And he had argued that the Third Estate was everything and everybody else was just a bunch of parasites and bloodsuckers, and they were nothing. That guy who hated the old way so much is all like, hey, Napoleon, I want to help you take over my government. And Napoleon's like, that's cool. All right. I love the revolution. I'm totally down with that. So Napoleon takes over. Now, Napoleon, in taking over, he's interesting. He almost immediately declares himself emperor. He allows the people to vote, but only in what's called a plebiscite. And I'll spell that over here because I didn't put it on the side. And the plebiscite allows people to approve what he's doing. Like, hey, is Napoleon doing a good job? Is it cool if he's emperor? And people vote yes or no. And so, you know, it's a thing that happens. Okay, so Napoleon is approved. And he passes a number of things this way, where it's not really a republic, it's more of a dictatorship, but he's paying them lip service by pretending like it is. And Napoleon, you should know his relationship with women. So let's kind of go back and review that. During the French Revolution, did women experience advances? No, not really. We'd like to say yes, but one critic was a woman named Mary Wollstonecraft, who said that women should be given a bunch of rights, including the right to vote. They should be treated as equals with men, blah, blah, blah. She was never taken seriously. Women were still expected to do all of their traditional motherly duties, to stay in what we call the private sphere, as opposed to the public sphere. They were not really invited to take part in this new government. They were supposed to just go like, hey, it's better for you now, right? Look, see, it's better. Don't ask how, just move on. So it'd be hard to say that. The Women's March certainly showed that especially lower class women could get involved in the political process, at least in the revolutionary process, but their role is still extremely limited. It got even worse under the Directory, which I said was unpopular with everybody, where it again started affecting food prices. Food prices, because of women's roles, were very important to women, because if they couldn't feed their families, that reflected poorly on them, and that created problems. Napoleon's like, guys, listen, I got a solution. Men are in charge. Women are like, wait, what? That's not really a solution. And they're like, he's like, no, I got more. Women can't own property unless they have their husband or their father's permission. Better, see? And people are like, wait. And men are like, okay, that's a really good idea, Napoleon. And he's like, yeah, I grew up on a little island off the coast of Italy called Corsica that France took over as part of the Habsburg-Valois Wars, I believe. I might be wrong about that. And, you know, I still have a lot of Italian kind of views about, you know, a little less liberal views, less enlightenment-y views about women. And they're like, oh, well, what about raising children? He's like, well, that's totally a woman's job. That's just crazy to give them any rights. What about children? Oh, fathers have the right to do whatever they want with their children and wives. So there's no protections for women against domestic violence or for children. But hey, you guys keep it real. Keep on vibing and keeping it tight. I'm going to go declare war some more. And Napoleon is more interested in wars against the Prussians, the Austrians, and by this point, the Russians and the English. And this is what he's good at. He's not good at ruling over his own people so much as he's good at beating people up in their name. He has a police chief whose last name is Fouche. I'll try to spell that, but I'm not sure. I'm going to double check that right now. I think his name is Joseph Fouche. Yeah, okay, in the secret police. Okay, I must be right. It's fine. Yeah, Joseph Fouche. Okay. I had a little accent on the E. And he runs Paris while Napoleon is gone, which is frequently. And he basically runs it as a police state. So again, more of the rights of the people that were guaranteed by the Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen are eroded. In many ways, Napoleon's not great. But here's the way he is good. Every time he rolls his armies through something that's under control, because he's not just pushing them back. He's not just pushing his enemies back. He's actually conquering their land as he does it. And he is bringing these French Enlightenment ideas. Oh, sure. That was Jean-Paul Marat. And his newspaper was The Friend of the People. Marat, I would be shocked if he showed up. I think that's one that you could probably crowbar into an essay about freedom of speech. If it was something like what were the complaints of the people, or if it was something like how have people and freedom of speech or freedom of the press affected governments, you might be able to wiggle him in there. Beyond that, I don't know. He's a bit obscure. I would say he's not going to show up outside of a short answer, if that, and he would probably be a part of a larger thing. So Napoleon is off declaring war on people, kicking butt and taking names, and he is leaving his Paris, leaving his rule to Joseph Fouche, and as he conquers these places, he is saying like, yo guys, this is the French way. You don't have to listen to nobles anymore. So he's bringing some things with the revolution. And he does have newspapers, which technically is a press, but they're censored, which is not a free press. And he has secret police, just like Robespierre did, and just like, you know, a lot of dictators through history have had. So Napoleon is not really considered a great advocate of the Enlightenment. Having said that, that would be a good question, wouldn't it? You know, in what way does Napoleon represent the ideas of the Enlightenment? And I had my students write a whole paper on that. It's the kind of thing that, frankly, you can go to my website. Here, I'm going to switch my... I'm going to slow my roll for a second here and stop screen sharing. And then I'm going to start screen sharing my whole screen. And on my website, you can go to www.bullardoliver.com and click on AP European History and go down here to Debate Resources. And there's a bunch of different debates on here. And one of them is about to what extent did Napoleon continue the ideas of the Enlightenment? And I'll go ahead and pop this link over to the group chat right now. But essentially, it has in here, these sources would be worth taking a glance at for more details, so you're not getting the quickie version like I'm giving you. Whoop, sorry about. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to sharing my France window. Meanwhile, I'm going to minimize that, and I'm going to go boop, and boop, and boop. Right there. So you can just click on that link, and that'll go there. I think it's a decent little website. You should be able to get some good information there. Also, I have a whole review section, which you can get things out of as well. Okay, so Napoleon, what else I want to say about him? Obviously, many battles. He defeats everybody. I wouldn't really worry about any battles except for the Battle of Austerlitz, and I'm going to double check my own spelling, to be honest with you. Austerlitz. All right. Yep. Napoleon's greatest victory. Yay. So that is in 1805, and that's when he defeats Austria pretty definitively. And so I'll share that in the chat. I spell that. Austerlitz. And Trafalgar. That was also in 1805. Trafalgar is when he goes to war with the British and he fails, and that's not good for him. Again, I wouldn't really stress about those battles, but if you feel like you need to know a battle, and we're talking about it, so I figure I might as well mention it. But you know, it's probably worth knowing that that he did in fact have those battles, just so you don't get stumped if they do happen to show up, which I don't think they will, but just in case. Napoleon, ultimately, I made a list of all the things that are most important Napoleon things. You should know about the Napoleonic Code. You should know that he, after failing to defeat Britain in the Battle of Trafalgar, decides he's going to freeze them out with the continental system, where all of Europe, which is basically under his control, or at least allied with him because they had to surrender to him, is he tells them, you're not allowed to trade with Britain. And everybody's like, are you serious? I mean, England's pretty dope. We trade with them all the time. They got, you know, have you ever heard of the Industrial Revolution? Because they've already started a couple of years ago. We've been busy with all this revolution stuff. They've been, you know, keeping it real. And he's like, nah, don't. Just don't. And they're like, oh, okay. And everybody breaks the rule. Everybody's smuggling in stuff. Everybody's being all kinds of bad. But Napoleon does try to enforce this. Russia openly mocks him. Alexander I, the Tsar of Russia, openly mocks him. And so Napoleon's like, well, what am I good at? Not ruling. I'm good at smacking. So I'm going to go lay some smack on Russia. And this is famous. Again, easy synthesis with Hitler in 1941. But it's famous because he invades Russia and he fails largely in part to underestimating the Russian army's propensity. Hey, Kate, I'm talking to like the world. He says, I'm going to invade Russia. I can do it real fast. Russia just retreats a lot until it's winter and then counterattacks. Same thing that happens to Hitler. Okay? And remember, guys, when you hit a synthesis, it's great to do. Specific thing and more than simply one casual allusion to it. Don't just say, oh yeah, when Napoleon invaded Russia, it was like a failure, like what Hitler did because of winter. No. If you can drop, yeah, Napoleon invades in 1812, underestimates the Russians, wants to bring him into line. The Russians, they will retreat and burn everything so that Napoleon is not able to benefit or steal supplies as he gets on. And then ultimately the Russian winter hits and the troops are left unawares, unprepared. This is very much like when Adolf Hitler decided that he would break his non-aggression pact with Russia and invaded them in the summer of 1941, and then moved in and also suffered from a Russian scorched earth and also suffered from the Russian winter. Both resulted in the failure of these two empires. Both resulted in an easily preventable defeat. Like, that's how you do a synthesis, not just like they both wintered. Okay, so don't do that. Napoleon ends up having to retreat after he loses to Russia in 1812. It actually goes to 1814. He's retreating. Everybody else decides this is a good time to be snakes and attack him as he's retreating. And so he is completely defeated in 1814 and exiled. Now, this is more of a trivia thing, but it's an easy thing that students remember. And if you do happen to get a Napoleon essay, and it would be dope if you did, like maybe a nice DBQ about Napoleon or something, you should know that the first exile is to the island of Elba, and then he returns. He is back for 100 days. He's defeated again, this time at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815 by the Brits and the Prussians. Although everybody only gets the British credit, which is a little unfair. My wife, who only speaks German, is very upset about this. Yell about it, wife. So yell in German, which is your language you speak, about how angry you are that the Prussians never get credit for the Battle of Waterloo. She doesn't want to play. So anyway, there's that, and then he is exiled again to St. Helena, which is off the coast of Africa. And that's the end of our friend Napoleon. Goodbye, Napoleon. Napoleon, now what? He's gone. So now let's play the game of, does anybody have any questions about the French Revolution or Napoleon before I go? What's a good synthesis to the Napoleonic Code? Wow, that's a good question. Napoleonic Code, let's see, it's kind of conservative. So what's another law code that's kind of conservative and sexist, but generally preserves rights for people? I don't know. Let me think about that one. I'll get back to you on that one. I'm going to process it back here. Any other questions anybody has? Hey, Lorelai, bring me the cat so I can say goodbye to Courtney's cat. Really, anything for the Napoleonic Code would just be like, you can even do the English Bill of Rights, because it doesn't have to be a perfect analogy. It just got to be something similar. Hey, buddy. Hi, Courtney's cat. Hi. To put the sixth grade, do you know one? If I think of one in class or outside of class, I'll tweet it. Anybody else have any questions before I bounce? Good boy. Courtney, is your cat see my cat? Look, it's right there. You want to meow? Nope. Okay. Oh, he said, oh. No other questions? You should comb your hair, my darling.
Hair smear.
Okay, well.
How come you put so many things? And how come you've got a crown on it?
Because that just means that I'm in charge of the chat. Okay, no questions, guys? Okay, I'm going to have my next review on Tuesday after school. It'll be 3:30, and I want to talk about the Industrial Revolution. Now, I can't imagine that one going real long. I'm thinking more like a 45-minuter on that. Because the Industrial Revolution, you need to know a bunch of names, and you need to know social effects. And that's the most important thing there. Didn't even notice. Okay, well, thanks for joining me for this. Again, if you have any questions, you could follow me on the Twitter, and the Twitter is Oliver Raps, and my email is charles.oliver@fresnounified.org. Really, any questions they have, just hit me up, and I will answer. I'll try to think, if I think of a better synthesis for the Napoleonic Code, I'll post that on the Twitter. Okie dokie. That's my son wandering around. I don't know where he's going. All right. You guys have a great day. I'm going to go for a run because I am working my puff into tough. And I have cat hair all over my nose now. And bye-bye. Have a nice Sunday.